stage, tell them not to change. Adrenaline and rage, I may never change. Running through my heart, dilute my pain.
Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. We are back with another episode of ReRooted Raw, and today we have a very special guest that's joining us. Ben, how are you, Ben?
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi. Alhamdulillah, I'm good.
How's things?
Yeah, good, man. I'm
Good,
glad
mashallah.
to be here. I've made it, I'm famous.
Well, he's already, mashallah, famous, we can say,
Nah,
to a degree
astaghfirullah.
on, mashallah,
Nah.
TikTok, and we'll, Instagram is all just TikTok.
No, just TikTok and YouTube.
Mashallah, TikTok
Yeah.
and YouTube. We'll talk about that a bit later, inshallah. We've also done some other stuff, which is coming out very soon. With the brothers at iERA, so
Yeah.
some skits, some
It's
really
been
interesting
fun.
skits as well, mashallah, where people will appreciate your acting skills that you have, mashallah, you're really good at. But Ben, today's show, what I really want to get into, bro, is your story.
Okay.
Right? As you've said to me already, like, no one knows about your story. You haven't mentioned it
Not really.
anywhere.
No, a little bit here and there.
And from what I've heard of it before going live with you now or recording, it's quite a fascinating journey if you think about it, right? And it's quite different. It's not a sort of the sort of typical. I don't know if typical is the right word, but the stories you hear all the time, right? It's somewhat different, and I think it'll inspire a lot of people as well. So let's start right at the beginning, right? You obviously weren't born Muslim, right? What age was it when you started to? I'm not going to say look into religion. Let's go before that. What age was it when you started to maybe think about life more seriously and what you were doing and what things you were following and so on and so forth?
Yeah, it's definitely when I was late teenager. Like just before leaving school, like year 11, I think it is. So I was like raised kind of like I was raised an atheist, basically. My mum and dad don't believe in God, and anyone that's religious, they're called Bible bashers and all that sort of stuff. And it was weird. When I was a kid, I did go to Sunday school though, but my mum used that as like a babysitter, rather than like, because they wanted to teach me religion. They just looked after you and stuff. So growing up, religious wasn't a serious thing. In my like teenage times, I got into rock and all that sort of stuff. And then there was a girl that I fancied, and she was punk and stuff. And I was like, yeah, if I get into that, I might be able to, get in there, stuff like that. And yeah, so I got into punk, and punk, punk, when people say punk, they think just a normal rocker with like long hair or whatever.
Yeah.
But I'm talking a proper punk, like big spiky hair.
Full on, yeah.
and it comes with a belief system. It comes with a belief system of anarchy and like anti-establishment and anti-religion, atheism, big, strong atheism, hating.
Why is that? Why do you think that is?
So like punk became a thing like in the 70s, and it was about rebelling the social norms, and I think that like the Sex Pistols and all that sort of stuff, those bands, they set the standard of the tone, and religion is about conforming. So it's punk's about not conforming. It's about not being controlled, not submitting, and it's proper hedonism, mate. So obviously that doesn't fit with any religion really. So yeah, religion is thought of as an oppressive thing. Everything that a active, like what they call hard atheists, what they believe a punk would believe times 10.
So it's like a full-on rebellion, basically, against society, against norms and things like this.
Yeah, and I think what triggered it. It wasn't just because it's what got me into it, fancying this girl, but I was really attracted to it because I felt that we as humans we're not in place. It feels like we're not meant to be living like this in this society, and it feels out of place. And I was looking for a way of life that was right and just, and just got into this anarchy stuff, man. The idea that what's wrong with society is capitalism and all that sort of stuff, and it went too far into like full on anarchy. So yeah.
No, it is very interesting because if you look at like obviously after the advent of modernity. And the promises that were made and the norms that were sort of suggested, and like you said, the systems and everything else that goes with it, people eventually, like in the 90s and the 80s, you see that they start rebelling against this, right? Because the promises were false, etc. And they just don't believe in the system anymore.
Yeah.
And, punk, as you said, is one of these sort of expressions of this sort of, showing that, if you like, the refusal to accept all of these things completely and just finding a new way. And you got into it because what's interesting, you said you got in initially because of, a girl that you fancied, right? But once you got in, then it became more meaningful.
Yeah, it was
for
really
you.
attractive. So it kind of started with injustice that happened in politics in the UK and stuff in the 70s and 80s, way before I was born.
Yeah.
But it became a culture, and it became like a subculture, a brand of music. And when that happens, it can be passed over to different generations. And it had a bit of a revival in the early 2000s. So I just got into it that way. It's really attractive because you become a part of, you fit into a group that is outside of the norm. It gives you I really felt that this is the truth of life and everything, and everyone else is blind, and I'm and all that sort of stuff. So it's really attractive because of those sort of things, I'd say. It's hard to think about. It's been a while, guys. It was like when did I stop being a punk? I stopped when I was about 20. So I'm 31 now, so it was ages ago.
But before we get to when you stopped, what I want to know from you is, like you said, you felt it was the truth,
Kind of, yeah.
Oh, I'm sure people sort of believe in it, and that's why they
it's like, it is like this punk subculture. It was like a bit of like a cult. It was all about no rules, but there was loads of unwritten rules.
That's what I was getting at.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, if it seems like when you get into this, it's like there's no rules. You do what you want to do.
Yeah.
But then you're saying that there were rules as well.
Yeah, if you didn't dress a certain way, you weren't a part of the punk. Like if you go on Google now, type 1980s punk, look what they look like. If you weren't dressed like that, you weren't a punk, basically.
If we get a chance, I think we may Jamal.
Yeah, I'll get a picture.
Probably get a picture up, just so people know what Ben's talking about.
Yeah.
So you were in this sort of movement for how long?
5 years. I don't know. 1 minute. So I got into it when I was 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 4 years probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then why did you leave?
Because it's not true. It's not true. Anarchy. I got really into the belief of anarchy when I first got into it, and it was like, and anarchy itself is a political belief system, right? And it's one of those things that there's things written about it. There's even Spain had anarchy for 2 years at some point, and So I truly believe that the way us humans are meant to live isn't controlled by people, and if you take the reins off, we actually become good people. That's what I believed, and that kept getting debunked slowly. So I adapted that anarchy belief, and then it became it had to be paired with. So there's a thing called anarchy, equality, and peace, and there was a symbol. I got a tattoo. I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah,
I don't know. Camera's picking it up.
Yeah.
So explain that to us.
So that's the anarchy symbol, and normally you see the anarchy symbol as like a big, like rough circle with like jagged lines.
Similar to the atheist logo as well. It's quite similar. The atheist logo is like an A with a round circle around.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, well that was the anarchy logo, and then you'd like punk bands would have anarchy and equality, and it would be the same with an E, and then the peace logo, and so anarchy only works if you have equality and peace, and then the two rules came in. Anarchy with two. Yeah, okay, that's a contradiction. No worries, keep going. And then even that wasn't working. Like, because I even lived in like a little punk commune for a little bit in London, and you'd live in a squat basically. It sounds really bad now. Like,
no, it doesn't.
I was young. I was like, so basically, it was an anarchist squat. It was a punk anarchist squat. I lived there not long, like a handful of months and stuff. And yeah.
What was the idea behind that? Why would you want to?
Because it's joining a community that believe the same things as you, and living out the lifestyle, so you're not a hypocrite. So if you believe in anarchy and anti-capitalism, why have you got a job, mate? So what we used to do, guys, we used to go to the centre of like London, tourist attractions, looking like a punk. People would take pictures or want pictures, and we'd go, can I have some money? And then that money would be enough for us to eat food and go to a gig and get drunk, and it was all about the music and going to gigs, and nearly everyone was in a band of some sort as well, like and being in a band, expressing your beliefs in that way as well. So it was about like a belief system. To me, it was anyway, lifestyle and the music as well in one go.
Would you say, Ben, like on one end you're saying you shouldn't be controlled by people, but on the other end it seems like that it's a movement which is being controlled by the self. Yeah. So in a way you're being controlled by a person, which is yourself. Yeah. But like you said, plus the rules that came with it.
Like I said, we were going there. It was the unwritten rules, and these were, when you have things that culturally you don't do, and it was this subculture. So you like dressing a certain way, having certain, but if you don't have these sort of certain beliefs, you're not really a punk. If you work in a corporate company, and then we used to call people weekend warriors, so the ones that had normal jobs, and then on the weekend they come to the gigs dressed up and all that, things like that. And it like, to live the true punk life in my head, it was so extreme that you had to live in an abandoned building, so you're not paying rent, no taxes or anything like that. You're making money by doing other things like that, and you do it. And to be honest, it was like that, but it was still empty. Like there wasn't happiness there, and you saw the problems with it, and it didn't work. And then I moved away from that, and I kind of moved away from the community a bit as well. I moved back with my parents, and the idea of anarchy started to dissolve and stuff like that, until I was only a punk on the outside. Like, I looked like a punk, but I didn't believe in all this stuff. I had a job now, and I didn't hang out with punks anymore.
So what had replaced it at this time?
Nothing really, just a day-to-day normal life like most people. I just looked a bit different. I hung out with, I got a job in a shop where it sells like goth and punk clothing, tattoos and piercing and stuff like that. So I just hung out with that lot, and it was a similar lifestyle, not as extreme, and it wasn't ideology based. It was just about having a laugh, going out to the pub and on the weekend and stuff like that. Okay.
So you've transitioned now. You've left this lifestyle, right? You left the punk subculture, and you've moved out to living more of a normal life, or normal meaning what we consider as normal. Doing the things everyone does, hanging out with friends, going for a drink, maybe going to a party here and there. It's, spending time with family, etc. Working. What happened then? Wasn't that enough for you, or did you always was there any point you started thinking about, okay, there has to be more?
So no, like it was all because it was ego based. I was very arrogant then. Do you know what? Because I know this is going to get into, how did you find Islam, like that sort of thing. I get it, how it goes. But actually, I was thinking about Islam while I was a punk and believing in that sort of stuff because of the environment I was in.
Okay, that's interesting.
So when I say that, so I got a job when I moved away from London and all that. I got a job at Burger King, flipping burgers for a bit, and there was a couple of Muslims working there. There was one that wasn't really practicing. One, he now looking back, I can see he's like freshly practicing. He really got quite like, yeah, cool, I'm really into it. And I would ask him questions because I was an atheist. I kind of wanted to catch him out and stuff like that. I'd ask him questions about Islam, but also I didn't know enough about Islam, and I thought they were like, if you offend them, they'll get angry. So I was really respectful, and that because of that respectfulness I had. Respectfulness? That a word? It was a good conversations that I was having with him, learning about Islam, and also I found this punk girl on the internet, who was also deaf and a Muslim, and she and there was a movement in the punk scene called what was it called, Matt? Straight Edge, and it was about no alcohol, no drugs, but all the other stuff that go with the punk stuff. And she trying to create this thing with punk and Islam, and called it Taqwa Core. Taqwa Core, something like that. And it's actually, someone made a movie about it. I don't know, I haven't seen it, but she's in American stuff, and I was like, she come up on my MySpace back when we used to use MySpace. She came out, I was like, started talking to her, and she was I was like, how can you believe in a God? And she was started talking, and that's the kind of the first time I thought that that someone like me could be a Muslim. I didn't think about that, becoming a Muslim or anything, but it's kind of that, the seeds were planting. Like, Allah put things in my path, that like little signposts, so to speak. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's interesting. Just I know it's a side question, but I'm just intrigued. The whole punk scene seems to be rebelling against the system, right? As one of the fundamental tenets of it. But there's also the atheism. So it's not a rebellion against people, it's a rebellion against God or gods, right? What's the link there? Is there a link there, or is it just something that you just...
Do you know what? With punk, there's loads of slogans and stuff. They normally came from like songs. There's no gods, no masters. So it's renouncing all like control that anyone's got on me, you as an individual. And there's loads of songs that are anti-religious. I remember one was that... oh man, I quoted it to some of the Muslim friends I got, and they laughed. Never mind. There was loads of songs. I remember one that was called "I'm an Atheist." It was literally just, and it was just the choruses were really short and sweet about how religion's rubbish, and it's I'm a atheist, and everyone's like yeah, and it gives a pride in it. It kind of gives you an identity. Yeah, so I think my atheism. I don't believe a lot of atheists, especially raised atheists, are subconsciously rebelling against God. I don't think that happens, in my opinion. I think it might happen with people that are raised like religious and maybe believed before and disbelieved and stuff. But I'd never had any belief like that, and I think that's a brilliant trick from Shaitan to kind of actually get people raised in this mindset. So when I heard things from religious people like, oh yeah, you're rebelling against God, it's like, I don't believe in God, what are you on about? Like, so it wasn't a rebellion against God in my eyes, because I didn't have a concept that there's a, serious concept that there would be a God controlling or giving guidance or anything like that. So yeah.
So you had early experiences with Muslims?
Yeah.
Even during your punk days, you came across some Muslims, you seemed quite interested to a degree. Yeah,
so I looked into Islam a little bit then. I actually, do you know what? Do you remember back in the days you had like external hard drives you had to actually plug in and turn on? I found one like 2-3 years ago in my storage, and it's all my punk fit pictures and all of the music I had, and in there was the Quran, the audiobook.
Subhanallah.
So and then I was like, I completely forgot about it. I remember that I downloaded the Quran to listen, because I'm dyslexic, so I'm reading it, forget it, I'll listen to it. And I remember it, and it was because I remember now it's because I was talking to that girl, and I was like, I'll listen to this then and see what it's about. But I don't remember actually if I listened to it fully and stuff. It got American accent, so it wasn't relatable, you know. Fair enough. But yeah, like so those seeds that I planted in, and I covered them, you know. Those I obviously like looked into it a bit back then and so on like that. So yeah, there was seeds there. What happened then was when I stopped becoming like I had a apostate moment as well with punk. So I was a bit sick of it, and I went out with the punk lads again. I was like, oh cool man, and it was a rubbish night. I felt rough. Everyone was drunk, talking rubbish and stuff, and I was like, this isn't for me anymore. This is hard. And I had a moment where I shaved my mohawk off. Like
that's a big thing at that time, isn't it?
Yeah, kind of. I was like shaving my identity off. And then the next day I went to TK Maxx or I went to the clothes shop, you can edit that out, and bought some normal clothes, and that was hard for me. And I actually started dressing like a skinhead, because skinheads and punks were like together. This is the only thing I could know what to dress like, because imagine 5 years of wacky clothing, tartan trousers with patches all over it, leather jackets, studs, and like homemade cut t-shirts, and then you got to go to the shop and buy some normal clothes. Like, so yeah, I kind of wore polo shirts, tight trousers, and stuff like that. But long story short, I started going away from this alternative rock music, punk music and stuff, even though I still was in that culture, because I worked in that culture. And I made a friend, and I made a friend like through college and stuff. So I went and did education again. I kind of wanted to reinvent my life after wasting 5 years doing all that sort of stuff. And he had a journey with Islam. And I didn't think about it. He was an atheist, and then he was considering Islam and stuff. And he went and talked to a local person doing Dawah on the street, and he talked to me about it. And that was another little seed that Allah planted, because eventually I actually went to the same person that he went to.
Wow.
And stuff like that. But the big thing, I suppose, that took that atheism away, because I was really into comedy like Ricky Gervais. I still am. I like Ricky Gervais. He's funny. But the belief that comes with it, and had this security with atheism, like I had the intellectual high ground. I think some certain things took that away when I had to question my own belief and think, well, when I was thinking philosophically, can I prove there's no God? I'm making a positive claim. I've learned about claims and arguments and stuff.
Why did you get to that point? Like, you seemed okay. Like, you left the whole punk lifestyle. You were trying to, you're getting on with life. What happened that led you to sit down and think, okay, let me try disproving?
Do you know what it was? I really enjoyed watching atheists do lectures about how religion is wrong. I got more into atheism after the punk stuff, to be honest. Like as an academic thing. I'm still a layman, but yeah, I was watching debates. I love debates when an atheist and religious person and he gets owned. You know, when you see Speaker's Corner videos, you're like, oh, got ya, that sort of thing. and then I come across, and this comes to where it kind of pointed me towards Islam a bit. A debate with Hamza Torsis and Kraus. You remember that one?
Yeah, that's actually still one of the Jamal is probably the biggest.
Probably
The video on iERA channel, isn't it? That's still, I mean, people are still messaging it like all these years on, like they watched it for the first time. And
so I think it's the first time where it took me off my high horse. I wasn't convinced from Islam from it, but I wasn't convinced with atheism now because of it. And I kind of took a step back with my strong atheism, and I just didn't think about it for a bit. And then the more I thought, I more was agnostic. I was like, well, we don't really know. It could how can you measure the supernatural with natural tools? You know, it doesn't make any logical sense. And it was just a bit of a journey, a really slow journey. And then I remembered my mate that so my mate, I've never talked about this. My mate actually converted to Islam, that guy that was saying, but he left very quickly and stuff like that. And I didn't think about it. And I was thinking about that as well. And he was quite a strong character. And that's why the things that he must have said stuff to me that I forgot about, that made me look into Islam and it was about the historicity of it, about that the Quran is preserved. We know the Bible's got like holes in it, and you can see the changes. We don't know who the authors are and stuff like that. But this Quran actually, about the Prophet Muhammad, peace upon him, this is historical. You can go right back, and that's fact. That's something you can hold on to. So I started to look into Islam a little bit, just leisurely, and then it became like boom. I got well into it. I was watching YouTube videos and reading books and stuff like that, and I already knew, this is long story short with that part of the journey. I already knew in my heart I wanted to accept it. I needed to accept Islam, but I didn't want to accept Islam because of all the responsibilities that come with it. Yeah. And I knew, so there's a nice analogy that I kind of experienced. So we all know as Muslims, everything in the creation is worshipping Allah by obeying Him. They haven't got free will. The sun prostrates to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that sort of stuff. Yeah. But the only creation is the human and the jinn that have free will. I didn't really think about the jinn then, obviously, but now me as a human, I've got free will, and if I don't obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I'm outside of that synchronization with everything else that's created. And that's what we describe as that whole. That whole, I don't know what I'm doing in life. And all my life I knew that was a thing. Like, the way we're living now isn't natural. It's not meant to be. And that's why I've been like subconsciously and consciously searching for how we're meant to live. I even went through a stage of believing that we're meant to live as tribal people and things like things like that. And and Islam was answering lots of questions. You can verify it back to the Prophet, peace upon him, and then you got to challenge this claim. So this guy was either lying, he was telling the truth, he was deceived, or all sorts. And when you look at the historical evidence, and it was like, well, the guy was like, this is me back then. The guy was like exiled, and he's eating palm leaves. And at any moment, he's going, "Oh no, I'm joking. Oh no, I'm not really. Can I have that money and women that you said about? When they offered him loads of power, he could have done that any time. Yeah. And he didn't have enough followers to make. I mean, if I was there, I'd be like, this isn't working, guys. Like, forget it. And if I was like in his position, this is how I was thinking then. If I was in his position, and I was faking it, and I was lying. I was just, lying or really intellectually. I knew stuff people didn't. I'd be like, oh God, it's not working, man. We're like starving to death. Like, my stomach's killing me. There's people dying, people getting tortured. If I can end this now, just by saying that it was a joke, or whatever. And he didn't. Obviously he wasn't lying. Yeah, but was he deceived? I don't believe in in a Christian devil or anything that would deceive. There's no evidence that reality exists. So that's out the window. Was he mad? That could have been an option, so I looked into that. There's no signs he was mad. In fact, all the things that he did in his life, a mad person wouldn't really normally be able to do. He ran a nation, you know what I mean? He had relationships with many wives and actually kept those relationships in a good way, and you know what I mean? And people would have reported that he's doing this and that. That's a bit weird, even before he got revelation. Yeah. So what's left?
So you it seems like you actually did a lot of thinking.
Yeah, I did a lot.
You know?
Do you know what? It was really stressful, man, because it's like, I don't want this to be true, but it's getting true, and I got a bit obsessed with it, and I was like, oh no, and I was living with a girlfriend at the time. She would go to bed, and I'd spend hours at night just looking and watching videos and trying to debunk stuff as well and all that sort of stuff. And eventually, like, in my heart, I was like, look, if I don't want to accept this, but I'm going to have to, or I'm a hypocrite. Like, I could bury this in the sand and just do all the fun of the world, but I'd be a hypocrite and I'd be back in the same position again.
So there was a struggle. Like, it seems like you went through a real, like, headache of battling yourself and the two sides of yourself.
I think it's battling ego, you know, because battling your wants and desires. And I became a Muslim begrudgingly. Like, you hear like Revert stories like, oh, I couldn't wait. Oh, no, and I felt the peace in my heart when I took the child out. For me, it was like, oh, yeah, okay, we've got to do it then.
Work begins now.
Yeah, it is true though.
Yeah.
Like, not everyone has that like spiritual moment. Mine was a very intellectual journey. Before I didn't believe in spiritual things or anything or experiences. I didn't have any spiritual. The closest thing to a spiritual experience, I told you beforehand, is that I had dreams that it was weird. So I didn't have any dream that the Prophet, peace upon him, came to me or anything like that. So become Muslim. I had a dream that I was a Muslim. I had dreams that I was hanging out with other Muslims. Like, I watched a documentary about Muslim converts once, and I was like hanging out with them in my dream and stuff. And I had a dream that I was married to a Muslim wife. What's this? And it was weird, because after that, you know those dreams that are so vivid, it felt real. It was like you've woken up from the real life, and now I'm in this life. What's going on? It was one of those. So I emotionally felt like me being a Muslim. And I think that those were the signs that Allah gives to ourselves. You know,
Yes.
Allah says that He gives signs in this world and within ourselves. And those are the little things that hit you off emotionally to get you ready to go on this journey.
Did you during this particular phase where you were like had this battle going on? You're convinced, but you don't want to be convinced. You know, you're looking for evidence against it, going back and forth. During this whole process, did you ever feel like that, you know, obviously you've mentioned that it's like Allah shows you His signs and He's guiding you through these processes. Did you ever begin to speak to God?
That's a really good question, because that's the hardest thing I did when I started. No, I didn't. It was all even though intellectually I knew that there was a God, there was still that disconnect, where this is an intellectual journey and it's like, okay, this is true. In fact, it's just before I took my Shahada, that's when I first made Dawah, because I learned about what Dawah is and stuff. And I was like, it was the most awkward thing I've ever done, because I've never done that before. I've never talked to what felt like myself at the time. And what the weirdest thing was, because the thing that, we haven't talked about this, but the thing that convinced me there was a creator and there's one creator. It wasn't because I didn't look at Islam and go, okay, they believe that, so I want to believe that. Yeah. It was the attributes of Allah that I kind of thought about, philosophized a word?
Philosophized, yeah.
Yeah, philosophized. Dyslexia, mate. So I knew He was all-knowing, and He knew what I was thinking, feeling. He was with me on that journey. And it was almost like, I don't need to talk to you. You got my back. You know what I'm going through, man. But when I talked to Him, I felt so hard, because I was like, look, if this is the real journey, please help me on this journey. You know what I'm on about. Like, I was doing Dawah, and I did that because I saw that you had to do that and all that sort of stuff. And I was like, I'm fine. I couldn't formulate sentences to God, because it felt like I was in an empty room on my own talking to myself. Yeah. But I constantly was saying, look, you know what I'm going through, man. Like, you know, it was almost like, it was a weird connection. It was a weird, awkward moment. But every time I did it afterwards, it got easier and easier. And you know that the more you worship Allah, subhanahu wa ta'ala, the more you do for His sake, the closer you get with Him. And that's why we pray our 5 times salah. That's why it's put in place. So I was in a place where I was really far away, and I think that's probably one of the reasons why I was like, I didn't have that. Like, my heart was black, it wasn't.
But there obviously was a connection.
Yeah, there was.
You were connecting in your own way.
Full on. I have no idea why Allah guided me. I don't know I don't know how I deserved that. Like, and that was a big thing as well. It was like, what have I done for this? Like, what's going on? Like, and I felt a lot of guilt as well from what I did in the past and how I treated my family and stuff like that. And it's like, why me? Are you joking? Like, yeah, it was a weird guilt. It was almost like I don't want to talk to you because it's weird, and I don't want to talk to you because how am I deserving of this? It's really common with new Muslims as well.
Yeah.
Now I'm into the Dawah and new Muslim mentoring. It's really common, that thing, I'm not worthy, so I won't do it.
Yeah.
And that was the big thing. And that's Shaitan's whispering, and
Absolutely.
like, I'm just about to take my shahada. He's like, it's weird. Look here, you're on your own, you know. And it's those feelings, those emotions. So yeah. So there was a connection. Allah gave me a rope, and when I look back through my first interaction with Islam was playing Stronghold Crusader on the computer, where you know, it was a city building game, a castle building game, and you could be the Crusaders or the Arabs. And I wanted to be the Arabs because it was different, because I always like to go for the different thing in the game. Yeah. So that was my first ever thing, and then that got me interested in the Crusades. I'm going completely back in time now. Sorry, guys. He can edit it. It's fine. So I started getting into like history because of computer games, and I looked into Islam. That I was probably about 13 then, and I learnt about what Muslims were and stuff through that. And that was that was the first time Allah put something there for me to follow the road, sort of thing. Do you know what I mean? Mm. So Allah's given me a rope all the way through this.
It's a very powerful point, because, like you said, a lot of new Muslims, they have this guilt, you know, where what have I done to deserve this? And it's like you said, it's shaitan, because if anything, it opens our minds to the mercy of Allah and the love of Allah. That look at what we are, and He still guides His creation, subhanAllah. Yeah. And I mean, the prophets are examples of this. Musa alayhi salam, his story, I mean, is a prime example of this. Comes to mind. You know, he killed a man. He killed a man in Egypt, right? He fled. He left. He grew up in the Pharaoh's palace. You know, we don't know much about his life, but Allah guides who He wills. And when he gets to the point where he speaks to Allah, Allah says that, you know, you've gotten here at the exact time I wanted you to be here. So it's like, you know, Allah has a plan for everyone, you know. So don't let shaitan trick you into feeling so much guilt that you actually don't take that step.
Yeah, I think for me it was, well, when I reflect back, it's not that I deserved it; it's that Allah planned it. It was meant to be. That's what I was meant. That part, Allah gave me those opportunities to that position where I decided to become a Muslim and submit. And that was the plan of Allah. Maybe Allah's got plans what I do after that shahada, because obviously when you take shahada, all your previous actions and sins are wiped away. And sin was a weird thing for me as well, this idea. And sin is basically disobeying the Creator. The more you disobey the Creator, the further away you get from Him. And when you take the shahada, you're so blessed to be like completely washed away, and it's just like a newborn baby. So there's no need to feel guilty about what you did or anything like that, but it doesn't wash away the memories, you know. So it's really common for new Muslims to feel guilty about what they've done and not worthy and stuff, but it's not. But it might not be that I deserved it. It might be that what I do afterwards is the plan, and good will come from it, and it might affect other people. So alhamdulillah.
Because your experiences now you can share with people. Like, I mean, you can use them to benefit other people now. You know, which you wouldn't be able to do if you didn't live the life that you lived prior to Islam. So there's wisdom behind everything, man. SubhanAllah. So the last thing I want to sort of get into, just get you to sort of give some thoughts on, is you didn't stop there. You didn't just become Muslim, try to practice the best you could. You started to get involved in Dawah.
Yeah, that's later down the line.
So how did that happen? What triggered you to do that?
So there's a big long story with my journey in Islam. I'm going to give you a short one. We can go back to it if you want. So I became a Muslim. I practiced Islam as you would learn, like normal, you know, the normal stuff. But I had a lot of, I said I didn't want to become a Muslim. That emotion was always there, and it felt begrudging. I didn't fit into the community and stuff like that. And I actually went away to Quran-only Islam, or the Quranist or whatever, the idea that you only need the Quran. And I got involved in a group where their beliefs and their settings and what they did was more familiar to me than the masjid or the people that I was hanging. I was going from like going to the pub, getting drunk, rocking and whatever, to like 6 months later I'm sitting in Abdul's house eating off the floor with my hands. What's going on? Like I don't fit in here. There's all that. So, but I fit in with all of these like liberal Muslims or Quran only Muslims or whatever. There was a lot of different mix of ideas in this group, so I got involved in that, and I believe Allah took away His mercy because of that. and I kind of went away from the deen. I didn't stop believing, I just stopped practicing. And I came back to the deen, and this is where the Dawah comes in. That's why I had to tell that bit. Because I was playing computer games one day, and I used to listen to lectures or YouTube videos while playing a game in the background. And one thing come up about Sikhism. Right, and this is something you probably didn't expect. So I was like, oh, cool, what's Sikhism? I never knew about it. Not interested to become a Sikh or whatever. Just wanted to know what people believe. So I looked into that. And then it came to a video of a Sikh and Muhammad Hijab at Speaker's Corner. And the algorithm said, oh, Speaker's Corner.
You got to watch this.
Yeah, so I got recommended lots of videos, and I was like, oh wow, Islam, and okay, and then I started listening to a lot of things on Speaker's Corner, and I started like at first I didn't like so basically I'm involved in EF Dawah, which is an organisation goes to Speaker's Corner, does Dawah, and helps new Muslims through their journey and stuff, and now I am, and I contacted EF Dawah because I watched the videos and stuff like that, and I was like, look, I stopped practicing Islam, and I was scared to go back to Islam. So I had, like, at the time I was living with my girlfriend and her mum, and it was like, oh, this, I know it's the truth. Again, we've got to go through this again. I've got to make big life changes. And I kind of wanted it to be debunked. Watching those Speaker's Corner videos reminded me of why I was became Muslim in the first place. Not only that, it reinforced the intellectual ground there. And I was like, what are you doing, Ben? I took my head out of the sand. You know, when an ostrich gets scared, it puts his head in the sand. That's what I did in that time where I didn't practice.
Yeah,
I knew that it was there, and I was ignoring it. So I came back to the deen, and I'm sure a lot of born Muslims will go through this as well.
Yeah.
So this is kind of this. I'm sure like, it's very familiar with this. So I contacted EF Dawah because I heard on one of the videos, yeah, we got a group on Facebook. I was like, oh, cool, Facebook. And I was like, can you help me out? Yeah, so I got involved that. I became into this new Muslim group, and Dr. Imran helped me through this problem I had with hadith. Like, I didn't really understand it. And it's ironic, actually, because you can see how your desires take over. The one reason I accepted Islam was because of the historicity of the Prophet, peace be upon him, and now I'm rejecting that. It was a big contradiction, and we're going. I went for a couple of months of like, and then I admitted that this Quran only Islam is not. It's not a thing. It doesn't work. Yeah. And the hadith. If I reject the hadith, I got to reject. The Normans invading Britain, because the historical evidence is stronger about the Prophet peace upon him than it is with what William the Conqueror did and what he looked like. But yeah, I believe he was there and what he looked like, you know. So yeah, and that's how I got involved in the Dawah. So it was really good. It's a really beautiful place to be in a group of other reverts and other born Muslims that have gone through it, other reverts that have been like Muslim for years, and it was a really nice place because we're all on different journeys. So you know Jordan, yeah, we're still in that group. He's in the group, and we would argue about stuff and leave and stuff because we're all going through this emotional and stressful journey of becoming a Muslim. First year as a Muslim is always quite hard because of the life decisions. Eventually, we all I established myself in the deen. Alhamdulillah, me and my girlfriend at that time, we split up, and I got married again, and I was really alhamdulillah to a believer. So, I really established in deen, and I was ready, and I was already helping new Muslims anyway, but I was ready to kind of get to the next step and help other Muslims. Other new Muslims in their journey, and that's how I got involved in the Dawah, because I was quite closer to the guys at EF Dawah. Then we're talking like in our little mentor group and stuff, and lockdown happened, and we couldn't do any Speaker's Corner stuff, and at the time I wasn't helping with the Dawah much really, other than new Muslim support. And so we had to do something. And Jordan and me used to go on live streams, and it wasn't like a big YouTube live stream. It was literally just chatting, and then the audience would come on. We would just chat about our experiences as new Muslims and or as reverts and stuff. And then because of that, Jordan said, "Why don't we do that for EF Dawah while we can't go to Speaker's Corner?" Yeah. And this whole Dawah live stream thing started, alhamdulillah. So people going on, and then it turned into actually going on and inviting Christians on, or inviting atheists on, and because it's about debating what different things like that. and some live streams we were just talking about the deen in general. Alhamdulillah, it's awesome. So that's how I got involved, and I was it was like complete qadr of Allah. I think I've got sparks in my personality where I basically started hosting the shows. So I don't know anything much about Christianity, so I'm definitely not gonna. But I'll host the show. I knew all the how it all worked and how you know like behind the scenes work. So I did it that way. Then I decided to make my own stuff as well. So I made my channel, and then recently a TikTok, and that's how I got involved in the Dawah.
Inshallah, man. SubhanAllah.
It's proper qadr of Allah, you know what I mean?
It's always inspiring to listen to, you know, Revert stories, but when you listen to, you know, stories like yours, it just, because you know, I'm sure everyone watching this right now can see some aspects of their own journey in your story.
Yeah,
you know, some more than others.
Yeah.
But it just gets you to appreciate how Allah guides, man. And you know, it's just you're in good hands, because life will throw you around. Things will come up. You will fall off track.
Yeah.
But you know, if you just remain, I guess, honest to yourself.
Honesty is a big thing.
And sincere to yourself, 100%. Allah will guide you, man.
100%.
And you know, bro, I think for this show, we're going to wrap up today now, but I think what we're going to do is we're going to do a few more episodes on your journey, bro.
Yeah, because it's big and long. And
there's some really interesting parts as well. And what I especially want to get into in the next episode is new Muslim support.
Yep.
Yeah, because I think this is big, and I think you've got so much to share in regards to that, inshallah. So I think that'd be brilliant, inshallah. Cool. Jazakallah khair, Ben, bro. May Allah bless you, bro. Brothers and sisters, make sure to subscribe, click the notification bell, and make sure to share this video, and we'll speak to you guys next time. Assalamu alaikum.
Bringing out the cage, tell 'em rock the change. Adrenaline and rage, I may never change.